Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I'm going to welcome you to my program in which I discuss an individual horror film from any different decade and any different subgenre with my special guests. Now, normally we take this film and we take it apart, critique, analyze, generally have a discussion about that film. Now, you are all really in for a treat, as this month is our month of franchise month, and we are delving deep into a lot of different horror franchises this month by focusing an individual episode on each film in that franchise, but releasing all those episodes during that particular day, so you have one heck of a great listening experience for either that single day to listen to all of those episodes or over the course of that week. Now, the franchise we are talking about now is the Phantasm franchise from director Don Coscarelli, but today we are discussing the film Phantasm 2 from 1988, and joining me on this conversation I have Mr. Dave Watkins and Mr. Thomas Tellerello, and I want to thank you both for joining us as we continue to delve into the mortuary.
The mausoleum and the mortuary
and all that good stuff.
Why, thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
So, if you have not listened to the previous episode in which we discussed the first one, that's perfectly fine. Some of the stuff will be reiterated in this one. And then, of course, we will hope that you have seen the film already, but if not, you have the opportunity to stop this recording now, go back and watch that film, and then come back and listen to us talk about it, or you can just enjoy.
Let's not go that far. Just like keep listening. It's fine.
Just keep listening. It'll be fine.
It'll be all right. You can actually watch this one and then go watch. Listen to the other one later. You can even watch the movies later.
Well, the reason why I said it is because the third and fourth and fifth films are so integral with the story. I always wanted to tell people that beforehand. It's not like some of the other franchises out there where it really doesn't matter.
Oh, yes. That's why I love this franchise above every other horror franchise. I'm not, with zero irony, I say this. Zero irony. This is my favorite franchise. But as I've said before, it is not my favorite horror movie. That is Evil Dead 2. But it is my favorite horror franchise.
Yeah, I feel that Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987, a year before this. I feel there's a lot of Evil Dead in this movie, in the Phantasm 2.
Oh, yes, there's a very little bit of Evil Dead at some point, literally, and we'll talk about that when it happens.
Yeah. I know what you mean. But I feel like there's just there's some aspects that they pulled from it, which even like some shots, like there's a shot with the spear thing going through the doors. It's like a very Sam Raimi like shot, and it follows them down the hall. And
yes, I love that.
You know, in the chainsaw fight.
The chainsaws either remind me of Evil Dead or they remind me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, whichever one I'm in the mood for thinking about.
What about Motel Hell? You're just like there's a.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I forgot about that, and of course Mandy. Like that sequence is like definitely for me. It's number one in the greatest dueling chainsaw moments in horror history. It's Phantasm 2. Then of course Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 between Leatherface and Dennis Hopper, and then like everything else is gunning for a third.
Yeah, it's a good chainsaw sequence in this one.
So
I do like it. The Slumber Party Massacre was kind of funny. It's not that. There's one where they started a chainsaw and then they couldn't. It was like an electric chainsaw and it got unplugged or something.
Yeah, for sure. I love dueling chainsaws as an idea. We're getting way off topic here, but I promise we'll get it right back. But and we're getting also super way ahead of ourselves here. But you mentioned it right now, Dave. But I'm just gonna say, part of the sheer fun and enjoyment and childish glee I have watching the third act of this movie has a lot to do with the dueling chainsaws thing. And I think it's funny how in horror history, there's not a lot more scenes like that. Probably because the logistics of a dueling chainsaw scene are very, very hard. Because I don't know if anyone's tried to fight with two chainsaws. If you're that stupid, you might find out that clashing two chainsaw blades, you will break them very easily, and you will get the chains locked together. It doesn't make sparks.
Yeah,
it's not like you're fighting with two broadswords. They don't work that way.
Well, that's another thing. There's a lot of there's a lot of Star Wars in it too. I feel like that, even like like that sort of chainsaw thing, and you've got
The
you
the
got the
lightsaber
ball,
duel.
yeah. There's actually like that one time one of the spears like it starts to turn red, like a red beam, and it actually makes like a lightsaber sound. It's like zoom when it
Yeah,
comes out. But I do
yeah.
feel like he's a big fan of Star Wars. Just a lot of times, even with the first one, I noticed even the first one, which I wasn't able to join you guys on that conversation, but there was a scene near the beginning that was like right from Dune, even though it was done before the
Oh
David
yeah.
Lynch film.
Oh yeah,
But
we went into that. Yeah, the
yeah,
Gom.
yeah,
He straight up ripped off the Gom Jabbar thing, but he did it before anybody had the
yeah,
chance to make it into a film. So
yeah. It was the first
really,
time
the Gom
on
Jabbar.
film. Yeah,
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 really, he was the first to do the Gom Jabbar pain box, and he didn't just rip off the motif; he straight up ripped off the mantra. Fear
yeah,
is the mind killer.
yeah.
It's literally in there. He changes one
It was
word.
so
That's
yeah.
it.
That was so cringe though when I was watching that, just because he got it from the book, and he thought maybe nobody would ever notice it. But then they made the movie like two or three times again after that. So now it's like, wait a minute, that's a scene from Dune, you know?
But,
Yeah, I mean,
but
Cost
keep in
really
mind
couldn't have predicted that.
keep in
Yeah.
mind, Phantasm was a small budget movie. I don't think he realized how big a successful of a movie he was making when he made the movie.
Yeah. I think I saw the first one before the second one, but I've always liked it. This one's a lot bigger of a film. But I did appreciate the first one. But the first time I saw it, which it's made in 1979, it has a very late 70s feel to it, and the characters' hairstyles look like very off-putting to me the first time I saw it. Now I appreciate it more, but it was like just odd. But it is very creepy, just the hanging around the funeral home or the mausoleum. Well,
Yeah, did you
which
notice that the
yeah,
cinematography is super different between this one and
yeah,
this
Oh
and
yeah.
Fantastic 2?
yeah. There's a lot. This one's like this one's like a lot bigger, and I remember seeing this one on television, and it has a lot. It reminded me a little bit of Nightmare on Elm Street too, or not
Mm,
Nightmare on Elm Street Part Two, but Nightmare on Elm Street as well.
mm.
But it has like aspects of a bunch of different things. But it felt they were playing it with other movies like that. Now, 1988, this was when it came out. Now, the movies that came out were Child's Play, Nightmare 4, The Blob, which is really awesome and kind of similar to this.
Mm.
They Live, Killer
Mm.
Clowns from Outer Space, Maniac Cop, Pumpkinhead, Hellraiser 2, Return of the Living Dead 2, which is another one that they would play a lot with this, and Halloween 4 and Waxwork. A
So you're
lot of
saying
really
it was a good
awesome horror
year?
films. It
Yeah,
was an
look, you
awesome
said it was
year.
a good year.
This is one of my favorite years, actually,
Yeah, I was like, that's a good year. You just
Yeah, yeah.
like I remember every one of those movies. They were both,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
These are the films that I was watching. Like, I wasn't old enough to watch them when they first came out, I don't think, but I was able to watch them like a few years later, and they were playing these on TV, and they were like the ones that I would watch regularly, almost all of them. So, some of them seem a little weird. Like, I wouldn't have thought They Live was made in the same year. I would have thought that was made significantly like before all of this
Yeah,
stuff.
They Live kind of feels like a 90s movie to me in
Yeah,
a weird way.
You think it's the '90s
yeah.
movies? Great, Dave. I thought you were thinking it was earlier.
Yeah, I thought it was earlier, but Thomas thinks it was later. It seemed to
Well,
me it seemed a little
I think it's
earlier, but
I
maybe.
think it's,
Yeah,
to me it's because like the cinematography in that is very crisp and very urban. It feels more like an early 90s type thing. I guess
yeah,
Carpenter's cinematographer was just kind of very forward thinking. I associate the 80s with more like something like this movie, which has very kind of subdued colors, but everything there's a lot of blues and blacks and also a lot of like kind of sometimes fuzzy lines. It's not the
yeah,
some shots are just like not quite in focus, but that works to this movie, which is supposedly
sure.
probably mostly a dream.
Yeah, apparently the studio enforced them not to have any dream sequences in the film. They talk about things being dreams, but that's one thing about some of the other ones that I actually like that they imposed that, because it is sometimes a little off-putting when something's a dream when you think it basically makes everything you question whether or not it's a dream. Where this movie is a dream in a way, it's a dream or a nightmare, but you never see anybody wake up from a
No,
dream or
you
a
don't. And
nightmare.
they did that in the first movie too, because if you notice that there's this whole sequence where Mike goes to bed, falls asleep, has that iconic nightmare where the tall man is above him,
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
right.
then two zombies grab him, but you
Yeah.
never see him wake up from that dream. So
That's
you
yeah, I never thought about it. I just thought they fucked up and didn't shoot the scene
No,
or something.
no,
It's
that's
just,
intentional. That was
yeah,
intentional. Coscarelli was trying to mess with you and make you think, wait a minute, maybe that from that point on, the movie is just in Mike's head.
yeah.
Whereas this movie, I feel like since he had that in position, I think he works around that by basically suggesting that this whole movie is basically the character Liz's dream. And it abruptly ends at the end of this movie for reasons we'll get into later.
Yeah, the Liz character was imposed by the studio as well. They wanted like a
Aw.
love interest, but I really like the character. I
Me
really
too.
I don't like what they do to the character going
Me
forward
too.
after this,
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so
but
that's disappointing.
but I thought the character worked really good. And I like it's kind of like another thing that I think this pulls from is like Stephen King stuff because that just the telekinetic like or the telepathic and psychic connection between the two characters. Um, Liz
Yeah.
and Mike, who were writing to each other or writing about each other. And this is way before the internet, so they couldn't. Now you could just Google somebody or Facebook them and go on Facebook
She
and
found
click their
Mike on
name in.
face. She found Mike
Yeah. I
on
mean,
Facebook.
yeah. It would completely ruin the plot of this. The two people having this psychic connection because you could find them. But I like the drawing of them too, like the
Yes.
way that they're drawn together, and they're both through some kind of whether it be a dream which they say they often dream, and then they wake up and they dream of each other, and that's what makes them when they actually meet have an instant connection. Even though I think that seems a little much when they kiss immediately, but it's because the connection I think is not necessarily a physical connection, but I guess right away it's like it, but
Yeah.
they don't have much screen time together, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No, no.
unfortunately. But yeah, I think as you brought that up is nice because like I feel like usually when they do that in lesser movies, I always hate it when they do that. The whole what I call like the instant love story.
Yeah.
First,
Yeah,
part of that is probably because I don't really believe in love at first sight, but that's just me being cynical. But part of it is like it's just them being very like we gotta go, we gotta go. But I think in this movie, weirdly, it works because like they
yeah,
have had that psychic connection for years, although I feel like it's a bit one-sided because it's she who dreams of Mike more. And almost they imply that the first movie might have been her dream too, because she has visions of the first Phantasm, or at least the ending of the first Phantasm.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
but yeah,
She even draws like she has like a scene from it drawn in her book. She writes a journal and she's got like some pictures and
he
Yeah.
she's
draws it.
yeah.
Yeah, the illustrations are great. It's funny also to like pause and read the stuff that's in the journal
Yeah.
because you can do that on Blu-ray. It's just so fun. It's like her dream journal, her psychiatrist mandated dream journal, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. And
It
that's what
says
it
it right
says. Yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, it does say that on the cover of it.
Yeah,
What's
it's
funny is like the weirdest shit was like I put in the disc, the Scream Factory disc, and it's some kind of something up with the channel, the first audio on here. I bet you they had a replacement disc, but there's like no voice vocals, and I didn't notice it for a while because most of it, what's going on, there's a lot of voiceover in this
Yeah.
movie, and most of it, what's going on is like it's voiceover, but it works without the voiceover when you're watching it because
oh
all
wow. So you're
everything's
telling
visual.
wait, so Dave, you're telling us that the Scream Factory version of this movie has the narration in the beginning? It's not there?
Well, it is on channel two. Like you have to change it to audio two. On the
Oh, that's
audio one's like messed up. I think like I'm pretty sure they had issued a replacement disc, but I didn't. I ended up getting mine from somebody on eBay. I didn't even notice it until I was watching it this
that
time.
is weird.
Yeah. But then the second one is the right. I mean, they have everything in there, and then the third one's the director commentary with Reggie Bannister and Angus
Interesting.
Scrimm.
That commentary, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is golden
Yeah.
because it's so great. Because on the commentary, you've got Don Coscarelli, you've got Reggie Bannister, of course, who's Reggie the Ice Cream Man back again, and you have Angus Scrimm, who plays the tall man. But what's great about this is that he starts off the commentary as the tall man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that he does. And it's the weird thing was like the other commentary for the first Phantasm, he was so awkward. Like that, like it seemed like anytime Scrim talked in that, it was awkward. But in this one, he seems like right in line with everybody else. Everybody is on the same page. But it's like almost every time he's talked, he just said something really bizarre off the wall, and everyone's like, took a beat, and they're like, okay. So, anyways, because he was a bit of an odd dude, but is the tall man, and the tall man was had such an iconic look.
He did.
They both, him and Reggie in this one, I think their acting is so much better than the first one.
It's Reggie is golden in this movie. He does so many great things with his face.
But it's like weird though. I gotta like him in the first one just because of what he does in this one. But the acting was always it's not like it's just not as good. It's like it feels like almost like they weren't very experienced actors, but it did have that kind of was a bit of a charm to the first one too, that they weren't that experienced. But it is interesting the way that just even the tall man who was great in the first one, to me, when he appears in this one, he seems like more in tune with the character.
Oh yeah, and especially when you get to Phantasm 3, he's even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figure while we're mentioning these actors and the players, I think it's probably a good idea that, I mean, we've already mentioned the players who are important. The big four actors in the first one, so we won't recover them so much. Except that I will add something I learned about Reggie Bannister that I did not know, that I learned from the commentary, which is that Reggie Bannister actually did work at a mortuary. Yeah. He did actually learn all the ropes of what it is to be in a mortuary. So
in between movies too, it's weird.
I think that is cool.
Yeah.
So that he says in the commentary that by the end of his tenure, he believes he confidently could have embalmed the body, but apparently he never got the chance to.
He did say in the same commentary that he tried to talk to the director about the embalming scene, tell him how this isn't really how it's done. The director's like, Reggie, this is a movie, so. Yeah.
Also, let's not forget here. This is the tall man is a entity from another dimension on another planet who's running a funeral home, and he's got a very specific, weird kind of like industrial complex he's going on here. Of course, he's going to bring technology and methods from his home planet. Of course, it's not going to be like what it usually is. Although I will say, I think this is the one Phantasm movie that shows us the most of the tall man's operations and what the day-to-day is actually like, which is very interesting.
There's a lot, There's a lot they seem like they felt like a need, which helps, I think, because the movie's so bizarre. They did a lot of explanation in this, especially through the voiceovers that was probably super studio imposed as well. But something about the voiceover stuff actually does work. I think you are going to try to get into talking about the Mike Pearson character who's recast in this one.
Oh yeah, it was Michael. Yeah, so Michael Baldwin, of course, for those of you who don't know, was Mike in the first movie. He was 13 years old when he did it, and it was not his first movie. It was like his second or third movie he had done. But he was, he originates the character. But
let me say something about him real quick, since I wasn't on the first one. I thought his performance in the first one was really top notch, especially as a kid actor. It was like some of the other guys seemed like of all the actors in the first one, I thought he came off the best.
Yeah, and it's really sad that they couldn't use him in this one. But what happened was, apparently Dino De Laurentiis, in his wisdom, decided that the movie was served better by a more quote unquote experienced actor. So they got James LaGrosse, or LaGros. I've heard it.
LaGros is how they pronounce it on the commentary. I've always thought it was LaGrosse because it ends with an S, but
me too.
You know what American language is? They just like put some damn letters in there.
I'm about to say,
good luck.
French? LaGros would be French, almost.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be French. But apparently he had done some really good movies like Drugstore Cowboy by Gus Van Sant.
Well, he's a great actor, though. I like James LaGros. He's
good in this movie. I just don't like his look, weirdly enough. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't like his mouth. I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
I know it's not his fault, but I just don't.
That's funny. I feel the opposite about it. I actually thought it was an improvement, but I mean, I like the way the other guy did it as a kid, but I thought that he really embodied the character here. But it's weird they switch back to Michael Baldwin after this, but it would have been nice for them to be more consistent and kept the same actor going forward, or either the way I get around it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the way I justify it in my brain is that, like I said, I think this whole movie, as we see it, is really just Liz's dream of
things that really did happen. Because if you just take this movie at face value, you might think that, okay, well, freaking Phantasm 2 didn't even really happen. This is all just Liz's dream. But Phantasm 3 goes beyond her and straight up references and shows clips from this movie too. It's not like Phantasm 3 pretends this movie didn't happen. It totally does not do that. This movie did happen.
It's been a while since I've seen the third one. Does it have James LeGros in the flashback? They avoid
no,
that, right?
No, you don't see his face. Yeah. You don't see LeGros' face. No. But you see his body. You see him in wide shots, but no, they don't have LeGros' face. But it's just like but what's funny is like, Michael Baldwin is in this movie in the flashbacks as young Mike, and he gets credited for that.
Yeah,
that's nice. But
what's weird? Not only that, I don't see it as a archive footage credit, even on IMDb. I wonder if they actually shot something with him.
No, they didn't. They did not.
And then they used the body double for when they throw his character out the window.
Yeah, there's like a lot of him in the beginning. It was like Lori Loughlin is a stunt.
Yes,
like
she
woman.
is. She totally is. Yeah,
but he's in a lot of scenes in the first like 5 minutes, as she's in a lot of scenes just wearing a wig, acting like she's him, and Reggie's like carrying him around and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's totally right. So James LeGros replaced Mike in this one because Daniel De Laurentiis. The also new person coming by here is Paula Irvin as Liz, the psychic blonde, as I refer to her, and the love interest. And then coming up on the rear here, we have Samantha Phillips as Alchemy, the seductive girl out on the highway that Reggie says, "Man, we're lonely, man. I gotta pick her up," and she's bad news.
Yeah, no,
she's from Perigord, which is where they're heading. So it's not like she's bad news.
But she is.
Bad things happen to her.
But even more than but she's seen earlier in the film though, because she's that cadaver. They see her as a cadaver on a table and she disappears. I don't know. The character is very mysterious.
Yeah, there's a lot we could discuss about Alchemy. She is she is part of the central enigma of this movie. And Samantha Phillips herself, I think she's a pretty good performance, except for a couple of some emotional beats that she just kind of is out of her depth. I mean, but it's okay. This was literally her first movie. She went on to star in such sensitive and important films and TV series as Hot Springs Hotel, Andromeda, The Pleasure Planet, Alabama Jones and the Busty Crusade, and of course Minnow's Mind, where she played Kathy, the resort's whore.
I've seen all of those. No, not really.
Of course you have.
I'm kidding. I haven't. But that I like her chemistry with Reggie. It works. It works really good, and it shouldn't, but it does. Because she's like a lot younger than him.
Reggie's whole family was just killed at the beginning of the movie, and he's already trying to bed the first thing he sees on the freaking road.
Well, we don't know how long. It's been a long time, though.
It's not like that. It's not like that. Don't give the viewers the wrong impression. Okay, his family does die, get exploded by the tall man, literally. We never even meet them. We're gonna meet them, but we never see them ever. But they get killed. There's a funeral. And Reggie says that they go off on the road. They suit up, which we gotta talk about that. They get all their weapons and stuff, and they go out on the road and search for the tall man to go track him down and destroy him. That starts a road trip that lasts conservatively at least 6 months before they pick up Alchemy. He says that we've been out for 6 months.
Yeah. It's okay, and not. I mean, it's okay that he has wants to have a side piece or whatever, but it's
not a side piece. His wife is dead. There is no side piece.
Well, he is
the piece.
But it's as far as that journey, and they have that car. It's like with the Barracuda or the Cuda, the Plymouth 1971, and then it kind of reminds me, which was later than this, of the show Supernatural. It's like the two brothers get together and then they travel in the Impala, but they it's kind of, I mean, that's later, but again, that does have a similar feel to this. I really like the journey that they take.
Me too. Yeah. Me too. It made me feel like almost like this movie, especially the first half of it. It feels like an abbreviated version of a late 80s Phantasm TV series, like a syndicated TV series. What it would look like is like Reggie and Mike just go from town to town each episode in search of the tall man and run into monsters that the tall man has left behind, or they run into the tall man occasionally. They fight all different kinds of weird, and they discover more and more about the tall man, or maybe the tall man does different things to do just expand his empire. They run into different characters, they pick people up and they go. So many things. It could have been like Supernatural. It could have been like something we might have seen on UPN back in the day, you know?
Yeah, and it was cool. It is cool. It also adds a lot of mythology to the story. Like when you see, because before you don't know that he's tearing up the whole town, which is also kind of feels a little Stephen King like. But they go from apparently going from town to town, destroying the towns, which he didn't really do in Morningside, or I think, but that's the name of was that the name of the place or the name of
Mornings? I don't know, because the hospital is also called Morningside Psychiatric.
Yeah.
I
think that maybe it's called Morningside, but in that original town that they lived in, it didn't seem. But that was from the first film. But here, it's a new thing they've added, which actually does. It's kind of cool. They're able to go from town to town and see the remnants of what he's done to the towns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny how nobody seems to notice. It's like, if I think in this day and age, like even if like a small gas one
town all of a sudden had like a catastrophe and everybody, like, it was just destroyed, and there would be
it'd be on national news.
It'd be on the news, or there would be some social media thing. Social media ruins all the this kind of post-apocalyptic stuff because everybody's just going to know about it immediately, you know.
Immediately, yeah. But I think it's funny how, like, he starts off small. It's a very strange kind of invasion that he's doing, where he just kind of goes from town to town, goes into a local, basically takes over whatever mortuary they have, and eventually just starts turning people into little dwarfs. But we find out that not only does he have the dwarf, or as I call them, zombie Jawas.
That's another Star Wars thing. These things look like the Jawas from Star Wars.
Yeah, we mentioned that in the first episode. Like,
But on the director's commentary of the first one, he actually said that wasn't Star Wars was being made at the same time. This was somebody told him about it, and he was like, "Son of a bitch."
You know? But you see a lot. You do see a lot more of the dwarfs in this one. They did.
Practical effects for them are phenomenal, because we actually see a lot of faces for them.
Yeah,
you see a lot. Whereas in the first one, they're covered up most of the time. You see very little of them. They're kept in the shadows.
I thought it was like, that they kind of revisit a lot of scenes, or redo some of the most iconic scenes from the first one, like that one in the mausoleum where the one comes around the corner and disappears, which was always like that in the first one. Some of that, like not seeing it, worked almost better than seeing it, because it was just kind of like, what was that? But they're called lurkers. They never say that in this film. I think they may establish it later on.
Well, no. What it is, Dave, is like, no, the spheres, the chrome spheres of death, as you're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't call them anything here except the spears.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think in 3 or 4, they call them the Sentinel spheres, which became their official name in Phantasm lore. But
on the cover, it calls it the ball. It's like the ball is back.
Ball is back. Yeah, the ball is back. So yeah, they're just the balls for now.
Yeah.
But like in this movie, we're introduced to the first. Well, actually, it's kind of funny. Like, we're introduced to 2 other kinds of wings of the tall man's operation. You've got the human mortuary assistants. We know they are human, even though they look like pale high school makeup vampires.
Right, I was assuming their blood to be yellow, but it turns out being red.
Nope,
so
it is very red. No, these are people.
Yeah.
So that's a wild thing. How they figured out how, actually, in the book Fiction, which is Don Coscarelli's anthology of short stories in the Phantasm universe, he kind of sort of explains that whole process in there's a story that basically tells the backstory of the guy who dies, the mortician assistant who dies in the first movie. He's got a whole backstory. Apparently, he used to be the guy who ran Morningside before the tall man came.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but what happens is like, apparently tall man is able to not only shapeshift, not only turn parts of his body into bugs and tentacled monsters, he also can apparently manipulate living people's psyche and basically enslave them hypnotically. But also, I think maybe it's kind of an aspect of these people are sort of kind of like those poor, unfortunate, like Jewish concentration camp prisoners who were actually working with the Nazis and helped load people into the furnaces during.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing.
you
But
know what
like
they
the
were
other,
they were yeah, you know what they
yeah.
remind me of is the Halloween 3 robots.
Oh yeah,
This is what kind of
That's a
what
good
they look
reference.
like.
Right.
Yeah.
that's a good reference. The other thing that we were introduced to in this movie is not the lurkers. That comes in part 3. The lurkers are the proper zombies that work for the tall man. And I think the workers are a little problematic because if he can just make straight up normal sized zombies, call them lurkers, and have them do his bidding, why the heck would he even make the dwarfs that whole and to begin with? That seems like an extra step in the process. But okay, anyway. But
There's a zombie in this movie.
yeah, the Gravers. The
Yeah, the
Gravers are what we
Gravers.
called. And apparently they are. I think they are zombies, but again, they also bleed red blood. The only reason we even know that they're a separate thing is that they got the gas masks on, and apparently they're the grunt work of the tall man's
Yeah.
operation. They are the ones who dig up the graves
Yeah,
and get
Mike
yeah.
actually calls
We
them the
also have a
Gravers too.
traditional zombie in the movie too.
Oh yeah, but that's spoilers. We get that later on. But I'm
Yeah,
not even.
Mike actually calls them Gravers in the voiceover. So it's like they're as it's going, and this one specifically, they're able to, because of the voiceover, they're able to like tell you what things are named. And he knows this. He's like, oh, I know this because I dreamed it. You know, that's what they're called,
That's good.
Gravers.
That's good logic there, Mike.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like we start with the zombie Jawas trying to kill Reggie, but I love the way how the transition from the old footage in Phantasm to the new footage in Phantasm 2. And it's just like it's almost seamless because it starts off with just the semi cinematography and then close up on the new tall man and he says boy, and then bam, we're in the new stuff, we're in the 80s. Reggie looks exactly the same, so the illusion is pretty good.
Yeah, he just like dyed his hair, but
That's it. Yeah, that's all they did.
Yeah, and
And
it's
he's
like
got the guitar, and he puts the guitar down. The guitar disappears, and then it comes back again. But that's okay.
Did you notice that? I noticed
I
they
did.
pointed that out on the commentary. I didn't notice it until they pointed it out.
I noticed it the second time around.
Yeah, but it was I mean, he said he got a lot of flack from it. That shit happens, so it's easy
Yeah,
to do.
man.
Yeah, it's easy to
But I
do.
love how Reggie is surrounded by zombie Jawas, and he's trying to save Mike, who's been pulled through the mirror. And we find out that no, it was a zombie Jawa who pulled him through the mirror in the first movie, apparently.
Well,
But
yeah, because I told you at the end of that one, it did not look like any of their hands. It looked like giant hands that pull them through the mirror. But I guess in the second movie, they had to justify that since you're actually seeing what happens afterwards. And so it ends up being one of them.
I almost felt like when he went through that mirror at the end, it was going to be like the mirror in House when he goes through the mirror and the medicine cabinet. I felt it was going to be like that, like another dimension that he went through.
That would have been cool.
Too, yeah.
But how did that's the thing? It had to have been though because they come through the mirror, so it had to have been because you can't. I mean, I guess he could have been on the other side of the mirror. I guess maybe on the other side of the wall. But to me, I thought they were coming from another dimension and dragging him into it.
Well, because it's like pitch black inside that mirror space, that you can easily imagine that. Yeah, I can see why I think that. I think the same thing. It would make sense as much of other stuff in the series. Yeah, but like I love how like he's surrounded by Jawas. He doesn't have a gun. I mean, he's got a shotgun, but he can't find the bullets. I love the jump scare when the first little zombie Jawa grabs him. And then, I mean, I will say that there's good jump scares in this movie, but not as many good ones as were in the first movie. But he's surrounded by them, and I love how he uses the stove as like a self-destruct mechanism for the house.
There's a lot going on with the stove. It starts off like the first time you see Liz, the very first scene, she's turning the stove off. But I guess that's her feeling like this could happen. But
it's a premonition. She's psychic. She thinks that's going to happen to her, because that's what you would think if you have these images. Like she has seen this whole scene that we are about to see before. This is a recurring nightmare for her.
Yeah.
So she's seen it a million times. We're seeing it for the first time, which I think is pretty cool how they do that. But yeah, he turns all the knobs, turns off the pilot, is like, burn you mothers, and blows them up, which is great. And apparently that house was a real house that they blew up. They just built a second story because that house was apparently in the path of a highway that was going to be built, so it was going to be demolished anyway. So they just rigged it up with some C4 and boom.
Yeah, he said they paid $500 for the house.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had to pay more they had to build a second story, so they had to pay for that. But they apparently, yeah, it looks really great. The explosion looks cool. He said they had 6 cameras set up, and they used it twice in the movie because the second house gets blown up later, and they use it again. But
that's so cool because they really do look like different houses. Because the tall man later blows up after Mike spent years in the mental hospital trying to convince the doctors that he's better now and doesn't actually believe any of this really happened. Then they come out, and that's when Reggie's trying to drives him to meet his new family, and then he gets a vision of the tall man's turning on the gas in Reggie's house and gets some petty revenge on Reggie by blowing up his family the way he tried to blow up his Jawas.
Yeah.
But it's the same house apparently, which is pretty awesome. And they blew it up once. And I love how Angus Scrimm, total professional, had a huge explosion happen right near him. And it must have been so loud, but he's just like unmoved.
Yeah.
And
well, he's the tall man.
He's the tall man.
Yeah, he was like in the zone.
But I love how like the tall man is just kind of he's kind of pissed because he had opened that hearse and he got that coffin out and he's very meticulous. He's like, clearly that coffin is meant for Mike.
Yeah.
And he's just like, boom. And it's like, crap, now I gotta go back. And he closes the top again, puts it back in. He's like, I gotta deal with that freaking ice cream man again.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, because I didn't even think about that. It is kind of like that is what he does, and he closes it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had to rewatch that because I didn't remember him closing it back, but he definitely does. It's just a lot of it's in shadow. Unlike when he first opened it, like it was really cool watching him first open and when he gets there, because we actually see this time when the tall man gets there and he just doesn't appear right behind Mike in the mirror. So
they added an extra little shot of him driving up, and you see his feet, like a close up of his feet. He has it almost looks like a boot he's wearing, but it's like I guess a black shoe with a big heel on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's almost like a cowboy like boot thing.
Well, sometimes in some shots, in some wide shots of the mortuary, he's wearing lifts. They are clearly lifts to make him taller.
Taller, yeah. He looks tall. He's got to be tall because he's playing the tall man. But when he's fighting those Jawa zombies, we get to see, like Kevin was saying earlier, we get to see a close up of their face. They said it was an animatronic on the really closer shots.
It was, yeah.
But right away when you see that sort of thing, you're like, damn, this movie's got a lot better budget than the other one. We're seeing like some really cool stuff.
And apparently the guys who were working on those prosthetics and some of the more grodier effects on this were guys like Greg Nicotero, who eventually went on to do K&B effects.
Yeah. He's all in The Walking Dead and all that. I met him one time.
Wait, didn't Toby Sells work on this too?
Who?
Dave.
What now? Yeah,
Toby Sells work on this.
Yeah,
too?
he did. He was part of that group. He did he said he did the priest effect or one of the effects with the priest. I know there were several of them.
When he loses his ear, then
probably either that or the necklace when he brings him up in the air. I think that's what he said. The air one.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on me until you mentioned that. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, he's saying he worked on it, but it's that's a cool sequence too, though, when the priest gets killed. But those like the close up of those Jawa zombies, it looks like almost like the creature from It's Alive a little bit.
Oh yeah, especially when later on when there's a naked one crawling out of one of the barrels in the red dimension, is all slimy and
yeah. It looks like a baby climbing out of a toxic waste barrel, dude.
Yeah, and it's trying to like crawl over and apparently bite Reggie in the face or something.
And all those visual effects look great in this movie, by the way.
They do. They all look amazing. And I love how, and speaking of cool sequences, I love the whole like let's go shopping sequence where they get all their weapons, most of which they do not use, like the huge bush axe, I wish they had used. But that's where they create the flamethrower, which is basically like the three gas tank flamethrower that Mike uses, and also, of course, the iconic quad shotgun.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
only thing missing from the first movie. It is created in this movie.
Yeah, so every time I watch that sequence, though, it reminds me of the sequence in Arnold Schwarzenegger Commando when they do the exact same fucking thing in there when they go shopping. And I seem to want to think it's happened before, but that's like the iconic thing I remember from that movie Commando is that whole sequence where he goes shopping with Ray Don Chong's character.
That's funny you should mention that, because the sequence that this movie reminds me of is the shopping sequence, the much longer shopping sequence in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Oh, jeez.
Of course, Commando was 1985, so it was before this. But this scene, I didn't see Commando to probably a few years ago for the first time. But
I grew up with that
yeah, it's great. But this scene always, I always thought this was a cool sequence when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Just because it almost seems like they're in that kind of apocalypse type of situation where they're going from town to town, and then they end up in this almost deserted like place where they still have some tools they can make, and they end up leaving money too after that because they're not crooks, I guess. So they're just gonna throw some money down.
Yeah. But if it's like an abandoned town, like who's gonna take the money? I don't know. Maybe that's the one place that is occupied. I don't know. But like Reggie, I love how there's that shot where he's got one double-barreled shotgun on the right, one double-barreled shotgun on the left. He looks at it, puts two and two together.
It'd be like it's pretty cumbersome too, though. They saw it off, so it's a sawed off four shot shotgun. Because he makes a comment like it's like too far. Like a shotgun would be too far away. They got to get something that they can hit closer. So that's why they end up sawing it off, so they could just blast whatever's in their way.
And not only do they saw them off, because originally it was just a straight thing, but Reggie Bannister decided that it would spray more effectively if they did like cut them at an angle.
Yeah.
It looked cooler that way anyway.
Yeah.
But apparently, from what I have read, that shotgun, yes, they did. It is a prop, but apparently it did work.
Wow.
It did actually do what it was supposed to do. And Reggie did fire that thing. And apparently the origin of the quad shotgun is detailed in the very first story of Coscarelli's book Fiction. Okay. Yeah, because apparently in that short story, I'll go over really quickly. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the very first one in the collection. And it is literally Reggie's experiences as a Vietnam soldier. Because apparently he was in Nam and he was an infantryman. And at one point, some guy that he is rescuing or something shows him how to make a quad shotgun. And he makes a quad shotgun in Nam and uses it. And it's a great story. It's got some really deep themes in it, and there is some supernatural monster in it that he fights, but it has nothing to do with the tall man, nothing to do with any zombie. It's not even an undead thing. It's totally different. It's a very great story. And it explains how Reggie would have gotten the idea, like, oh, I know how this worked out in Nam. I could do it here too.
Okay.
I like the way that they just go on the journey. Like Reggie's family gets killed, and he's like, you know what? I'm all in on this. We're not, we're just going, and we're gonna keep going until we kill these.
Well, he's kind of like, if you think about it, you were mentioning Star Wars earlier. I think Coscarelli has taken another page from Star Wars, because Luke Skywalker refuses the journey, refuses the call until he has nothing left to lose, when Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru and the Moisture Farm get blown up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Because Reggie wasn't necessarily intended to be the main character, but he becomes the main character.
Yeah, he becomes the Bruce Campbell of this franchise.
Yeah. He's definitely like, Mike continues to be in on, but he's definitely like not the main character. He is in the first one.
Yeah, no, he's barely in the first one, but my goodness, guys, he becomes like the the most unlikely action hero in the history of action heroes. Like, especially in this movie, I feel like he really becomes kind of a John McClane type guy, and a John McClane in the sense that he is an ordinary guy thrusted upon extraordinary circumstances, forced to like make life or breath decisions and perform incredible stunts, and somehow make it. And gets beat the crap out of, slashed and burned and thrown on the wall. He goes through the ringer so hard.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's done in a way so it's not like an action. It's like kind of an unlikely action hero. So it's very entertaining, almost a little bit like Ash, from Evil Dead and all that.
Yeah, except that he's not as
better for you. In addition to Ash, I've always seen his character in these films like Burt Gummer in the Tremors movies. He was a side character in the first two movies before he became the main character. And then, of course, he's kind of bumbling, even though he's the gun nut in all of those movies.
Yeah. That's a great character, too, in the Tremors films.
Those characters are the characters that audiences tend to gravitate towards, and then we just want to see more of them.
Yeah.
And
they changed his character pretty big in between the first one and the second one, just because the first one he's like the ice cream man, and he's kind of a comic sidekick, and suddenly he grows because of the journey in this one.
Yeah, he becomes Mike's father for all intents and purposes.
Yes,
he really does. Yeah, this whole franchise becomes eventually a struggle between two very different father figures. You have Reggie, who is the true father figure, and then you have the tall man as the evil father figure who's trying to pull Mike in the dark side direction. Again, Star Wars.
So the sequence after that hardware store, then they go into that graveyard with all those. There's like a bunch of graves. There's
gosh,
they've all been dug up, I guess, by the gravers. We find out later.
Yeah, it's one of the most iconic shots from this movie.
Yeah, and then of course James LeGros. I'm so used to saying LeGros, but James LeGros, which I found out in the comment. I didn't notice it right away, but in the commentary they do mention that he brings out the lollipop like Mike does in the original film, and he puts it in his mouth before they continue into the graveyard, which is a nice touch. They said LeGros did that himself just from watching the first film. He kind of connected that, but then that's when right before that there's like the voiceover from Liz says the tall man usually leaves traps. So this is like, going into this scene, it's going to be a trap, but it's not really. It's a little bit of a trap. But then they do go into the mausoleum or the mortuary, and then they find in the embalming room, they find the body of that other what was her name?
Yeah, Alchemy. Which, by the way, her name should have been the first red flag.
Yeah. And she goes by Kimmy, she says, which is Alchemy just sounds a lot better. But then they find that body and then it disappears. But then they find a Liz impersonate. This is odd though, because
doppelganger.
Yeah, it's a doppel. What's up with that? Because they basically, this is almost like a dream sequence, but they can't have a dream sequence, so they have to have it really happen. But there's a doppelganger that looks like Liz, and then I don't think we've seen that, or we've never seen that before. He changes into other people before, but here she turns around and she's got white tape across her mouth. We see this later, the white tape on her mouth again in real life. But then her back starts to move around, and then we see the puppet tall man that looks like Freddy Krueger coming out of her back. And
it's like a maggot. It's like a giant maggot head coming out of her spine. I think in the commentary they call it the hunchback figure. But yeah, there is a question as to how much of that is the tall man shape-shifting, or if it's some creature that he created.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be another creature because they torch it. But they do torch parts of his body too. But here's what he says. The puppet says, "You play a good game, boy. Come east if you dare." Because he just tells him to come east. So it's kind of.
He's basically trying to get he's luring them into a bigger trap.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I had a theory about the first movie that I talked about with Kevin, because in the first movie, Reggie mentions that he saves a bunch of girls who the tall man had held captive. Those are essentially the only real survivors from that first movie, but we never see them again. I had a theory, and I admit it's a bit of a crackpot theory. I had a theory that those girls were eventually going to be turned into zombie slaves that had spheres inside their skulls that were going to be like temptresses that he was going to use so that he didn't have to do the tempting work himself as the lady in lavender in the first movie.
I think he likes doing that, man.
You know what? I think he does too.
He likes getting boned, you know?
Too. He mentioned that too. I was like, because you know what? The tall man is having sex with with Tommy at the beginning of the first one. Before Tommy says they finished having sex, and he's like relaxing before she pulls out the knife. So I'm like, you know what? If he just wanted to kill Tommy, he could have just waited till he got him by himself and killed him, and not gone through the whole sex act. So Tommy, he must like that part of his job, or
maybe the tall man is just a very mannered. He's all about manners, and he wanted to let Tommy finish before he killed him. He just thought it was it's the least he could do.
It's definitely the polite thing to do.
Manners maketh the man, I guess.
The man, yes, he's a very civilized looking monster. But there's also this movie kind of expands that question as to how can he, what does he shapeshift in? How many tall men exist at the same time? Which is a big question later. Because this creature seems to me like a remote creature. I don't think the tall man is actually there physically. I think he's remotely controlling the hunchback creature. But there's the question of, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I think it's exactly what Mike says in this. It's just a trap. He's just left a calling card behind. I don't think that has one purpose only, is to address Mike directly and say, "Come east if you dare." I don't think it's anything other than that.
No, this movie, unlike some of the other ones, Don didn't have complete control over it, and he had to do certain concessions. So I don't know how much of the mythology builds it, but I don't know if do we ever see that again in the other films?
Not really. If we're permitted to go forward a little bit here, they don't. Like I said, they're in part 3. You do see the lurkers, who I would call them just proper zombies, and apparently those creatures are basically an extension of the Sentinel spheres. They've got spheres inside their brains. After the spheres have drained the blood from their heads. And then the tall man has had the chance to embalm them. He puts a sentinel spear inside their heads, but really you find out in Phantasm 3 that the spheres are in fact zombies themselves, because they have the brains of the person that the spheres killed inside the apparatus. So he shrinks their brains basically and puts them inside the metal case, sticks the sphere inside their brain. It's not the same kind of sphere that patrols and has the blades and everything. It's a different sphere, but he sticks it in their skull and smooths it over basically, and bam, they have a lurker. So that's that creature. Problem is that they suggest that's kind of what's going on. Spoilers, by the way, with Alchemy's character, because you see her very naked, dead body on the table, on the slab, with stitches on her chest. Later on, when she picks them up after they are victorious seemingly in their destruction of the tall man, destruction of the mortuary, although Reggie does not close the portal gate like he did in the first movie. He should have, but anyway. But then Alchemy comes by with a hearse, picks him up in a hearse, and then Labracadabra, turns out that she has that scar in her head, the circular scar where a sphere could have gone. So I thought, oh, she was a lurker the whole time. She is the first lurker that you see. And I thought that for years. But then when I rewatched this movie, I realized when you see the tall man at the end say, it's not a dream, basically. It's not. When you see him, though, he's got a scar on his head. He's got a circular scar where a sphere would have gone. because the intention was to suggest that Alchemy was the tall man. In fact, they were gonna there was an effect sequence where they were gonna show the tall man kind of come out of the shell that is Alchemy, but the effects work didn't look very good, so they cut it. So there was intention. They're supposed to believe here that Alchemy is the tall man, which, by the way, again makes some weird sexual stuff that happens with Reggie especially weird and awkward.
Very awkward, yeah.
If you believe that she was always the tall man, but then it's the question of maybe she wasn't, or maybe because there is an interpretation that maybe Alchemy got turned at some point, and if so, when?
Here's what the scene that's weird to me with her is the scene where it shows her walking down the road and come across a hearse, and she hot wires it to get there to the mortuary.
Yeah,
it's weird that it shows that scene because it shows her acting on her own free will by herself.
Yeah,
getting in the hearse. So if she's changed, it would probably be between that scene and the later one. Now there's a continuity issue as well because the last time you see her before that, he tells her to take Liz's car and get out of town. So why is she walking down the road if she apparently has access to Liz's car?
Well, because actually there is a scene before that. I don't remember when it happens, but there is an insert scene where you do see her with Liz's car, and she gets out of Liz's car, opens the hood, and it seems like the radiator. Actually, you know what? No, the hood is already open. The radiator is steaming.
I completely missed that scene. That makes it work.
Where the car dies.
Okay. But you see her.
She's walking down the road and she comes across the hearse in another scene.
Yeah, that's great. That scene's there because that makes everything work. But at the same time, it makes it so if you're seeing her by herself in those scenes, like, why would she be by herself doing that stuff? You know?
Well, I mean, you could interpret it that if she is actually Alchemy at that point, which I doubt, but if she is, you could interpret it as, and I'm sure Coscarelli intended for us to believe this, that Alchemy was trying to save Reggie because she's got a connection with him, and like Reggie does tell her, like, I'll get back with you if I'm able, and she's like, what do you mean if you're able? Which is like her worst acting in the whole movie. But anyway, she's like, if you're able. So it seems to me like they're trying to suggest that she wants to save Reggie, and so she tries to do that in Liz's car instead of trying to get out of town like Reggie told her to do. So she's trying to use the car to get to Reggie, and then it explodes. So then she goes and finds the hearse and decides to use the hearse to pick them up. That's face value. I think my cockamamie theory is, and I don't think it's all that cockamamie now that I think about it, I think that she was turned. You either believe that she was the tall man or a tall man zombie the whole time, or at some point she was turned, maybe when they left her alone, I don't know, and she was the tall man and had every intention of intercepting them with the hearse, and that's why she did that. Who knows? Maybe she sabotaged Liz's car so that they wouldn't even have that to go back to and escape with. Of
course, we don't know if the tall man enjoys playing certain games. He does seem like he's kind of down to business most of the time when he goes to do something. But if she is the tall man the whole time, why doesn't she kill them before? While they're in the bed and breakfast, when she's having sex with Reggie.
That's a very strange scene because actually, you know what? I think that scene tells me the way that she does what she does tells me that she's not human in that scene.
That's because for me.
What you say?
That is a complete. I don't believe she was turned until after she found the hearse.
Well, here's my problem. Here's what makes me think that is because they go. Mike and Mike. First of all, Mike starts the fire with a flamethrower, which I think is the funniest thing. He starts a romantic fire with a flamethrower.
I like the way the actress acts about it too. Like she's trying to get into the chair that's right by where he's flaming it with and then you can tell it's an superimposed effect, so it's not really there. But the actress is like really hesitant about getting in the chair that he just hit it with the flamethrowers.
I know, right? It's great.
I mean, that would just catch the whole room on fire, but it's hilarious.
It probably would. But like, so like Mike and Liz go off to their room to not have sex, but have a mental connection and kiss. Because it's somewhat of a chaste love, but it's a very kind of spiritual, kind of mental thing that they have together. On the other side of that, you have Alchemy, who straight up just like walks back there and says she's going to bed, takes off her shirt, and Reggie just and but then she's humping him, straddling him with her underwear on, and his pants are not completely off. And she's like slamming his head, his bald head. She's like, "Oh, I love your head," like into her boobs. And he's like, "Whoa!" He feels like a rag doll.
Yeah.
So she is A, stronger than him, which I don't believe for a second. And B, it doesn't seem like she really knows how sex works. It's almost as if she's missing part of her brain, like a zombie.
Well, I do. Yeah, I mean, I did want to say something real quick just about the sex scenes in general. I mean, I think it's so weird when this type of thing happens in a movie because they go into the mortuary, all this crazy shit happens. They get the girls back, and at this point, they should be thinking about leaving and getting out of town. But then all of a sudden, they're like, I mean, I don't even know how anybody could even think about having sex at all. At that point, you're sitting here, they got booby traps, and they're just worried that they're about to get killed by some supernatural creature. And then it's like, hey, let's go have sex, So we'll be distracted. I mean, I would want to be completely aware of everything that was going on, and not like, you know what, let's just go get distracted right now,
That's an 80s movie mentality. 80s and 90s. It goes into the 90s where they would have these obligatory sex scenes between characters that either don't have any chemistry whatsoever, or the people have chemistry, but they have to have it in that movie just to appease the audience. That's
it's the oddest time to do it though, because they could have had sex with
movie like that, dude.
I know, but he could have had sex with her when it made sense, like after they picked her up and they went to a hotel or whatever, and then they could have done it, but anyway, it's just a little bit of a thing that I thought was probably studio imposed onto the movie. Is what it kind of seemed like to me.
I think that's the product of the time, dude. As many of those,
again,
I don't mind sex scenes. It's just I don't like it when they don't make sense. I don't like it when it takes especially when you have someone in a scenario where they need to be paying attention to what's going on, and then they have sex instead.
I agree with you. It doesn't make sense, but then neither do half the things in this movie. But also, I would disagree that they actually have sex, because I don't think they do. There's no contact, because she's still got her panties on. He's still got his jeans on. She's just grinding away at him because that's what you do.
Whether they're having real sex or not, it's still that's probably even more distracting than real sex, because he's beating the shit out of him.
I know, it's played for laughs. Obviously. But then they get interrupted by the explosion.
Yeah. She does have her shirt off though, so that does help kind of sell it a little bit.
Which is also a reason why you can't think it's the corpse from earlier, because you saw the autopsy scars in her body.
Yes, I would think that. But then again, Kevin, he is an expert mortician. He would figure out a way to cover that up.
Do you think there's any? Yeah. Do you think there's any? Yeah.
Like the third film where the zombies you see all the damage that is done with them. They don't care about hiding the damage to themselves in the third film.
Well, yeah, because he's not trying to deceive anybody with those three. He's trying to deceive. I'm telling you, she's a sleeper agent. She's not the best sleeper agent, but she is.
Do you think there's any type of playing with time or either the premonitions, like her body being on the morgue could have been a different time, or
you know what?
It is a premonition / dream sequence. He's seeing
that's possible. Yeah. That's possible. I think that is a valid interpretation of that.
Mike also says that too. Mike also says that he says that to Reggie when they finally meet Alchemy. He stops the car and he has a conversation, and Reggie asks him, "Do all your dreams come true?" And he's like, he's not sure. They don't always come true.
Which that scene, by the way, is pretty hilarious. For some reason, they go out there and they're going to go pee in the woods beside each other while she's in the background. It's it's like
Yeah.
the most awkward shit. But yeah, it's just funny
Yeah,
though.
that's
It's played for laughs.
that's a great awkward comedy. But
Yeah.
yeah, the explosion apparently that wakes them up is the grenade. This beautiful little image of a grenade in a Budweiser can that they rig up to the door in case anybody comes in the door, they get exploded. And it turns out the only poor thing that got exploded was a cat.
Right. That's yeah. I mean, it's very confusing when you see that. That's what they said that on the commentary, but I didn't know what had happened. I remembered the grenade from earlier, but I didn't realize like a cat had come in there. I figured it was
Me
just
neither.
one of the dwarfs or something coming through the window.
Yeah,
They
me
say it's
neither.
a
But
cat,
it's
though. They say
What
it's a
now?
cat. They say it's a
yeah,
cat.
they
Okay, yeah.
do. They do.
Yeah.
The problem
They say
is
it's a neighbor's cat.
yeah, they do. The problem is the effects guys didn't do enough, cat viscera or anything to make you see that it was a cat. So
But
that's
why,
part of the problem.
it's like so funny. Why would a cat be opening the window anyway? Cats, can they? I don't-
Apparently, it was
Man,
the cat. It was the cat of the person who owned the funeral place that they're staying, the bed and breakfast or whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but also that's also another reason why I don't ever think that alchemy is a sleeper agent, as you call her, or the tall man, is because this character knows that bed and breakfast was her uncle's bed and breakfast. Like it's not like
So she says.
so.
No.
But can we
Yeah.
trust her? I
think
don't
you
know.
could trust her. I don't think the tall man's gonna be sitting on the side of a street waiting for some random dude to pick her up. Really, at this time,
It's all
to be honest with you,
mysterious, man. Yeah, like,
I think that's a little far fetched.
it could be like the Dust Devil, The Dust Devil does that shit.
Well, the Dust Devil's a different type of character than the tall man. The tall man has bodies to take.
Yeah,
He
he may
has
have
talent
yeah,
to
yeah.
take. I just don't see the tall man doing all of that.
Maybe it was a long con to set up the payoff at the end. Like that was his big joke at the end.
Again, like what Thomas said earlier, is we don't know how if there's more than one tall man. We know the tall man can be cut off in pieces, and his pieces live and continue to do other stuff. So it's like
Yeah, in fact, also I forgot to mention this. There's a nice little Easter egg in that first mortuary where they find Alchemy's body, not really Alchemy, and the humpback worm thing. There is a cool little Easter egg if you look at the jars on the wall, the specimen jars on there. There are of course organs and stuff, but in one of the jars is this little tentacled insect thing, which you see come out of the tall man, the hole of the tall man's head at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of snake looking thing, like three mouth like openings.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't notice that then.
Yeah, I didn't notice it in that scene, but yeah, I did notice the jars on the shelf there. Now in that town when they go to Perigold, now it first is kind of weird. I thought it was like a budget thing because they go to a funeral and there's only 3 people at the funeral. I really thought it seemed like a budget thing, but it's like Liz, her sister, and her grandmother. But later on, it turns out that Perigold has been like an abandoned town because when they go to that bed and breakfast, it's all holed up. But it's weird that they haven't left yet.
Well, it's like Reggie says. He looks at the neighborhood and there's only one light on, and he's like, they're too scared to leave, man.
Yeah, and you get that sense that that's been happening a long time, anyways, because the father decides that this is the last one that he's willing to allow, and he tries to, because he finally figured out everything that's going on. And this is another reason why I don't think the whole movie is a dream sequence, because we're seeing different people's perspectives. We actually hear Mike tell a freaking voiceover, and we hear
Reggie has his own voiceover
Reggie
too.
has a voiceover as well. Because remember, we were going to discuss whether or not this whole movie was a dream sequence from Liz, because I had never thought about that. But then they have voiceovers in this movie, and I was like, we have scenes with the father, which none of them should know about. Like he has scenes with the tall man, and he has scenes back at his own place, of which we see Liz's grandfather shows up as a zombie. So it's like the whole movie can't be a dream sequence because we're seeing stuff that none of these characters would have known to begin with. I was, so I was paying attention to that because we had this discussion about the first movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
think
whether
Dave's right. I think
whether
Dave's
it's a
right that they were trying. The studio didn't want to see a whole bunch of dream sequences, and so they tried to get around that in this film. I think it does feel that way that they're trying to get around that. Whereas it was much more naturally integrated, like we were discussing, Thomas, with the first film.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I still kind of like to think that. I mean, well, I see what you're saying. However, I don't know about y'all, but I have had dreams where I am a character in my own dream, and I could see myself from the outside, and I could see people doing things that I, as a character, would not be privy to because it's a dream, and your mind, your subconscious makes it up. So I don't think it's outside the possibility to think that this still could be Liz's dream, but I do think that it is Liz's dream interpretation of what happened. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it does bounce back between different narrations, so it does kind of, it's got to be more than one person's psyche going on here. But it's all feels like nightmare fuel. Like everything that's happening, they're caught up in some type of time vortex that this the space gate brings into wherever the tall man is, where he transports. So there's something going on with all that.
Yeah, and I do like that in the funeral scene, which, by the way, the priest you mentioned is played by Kenneth Tygar, who is like been in a bunch of other movies and TV shows. He's great as the stereotypically drunken priest. I feel like every priest who is troubled is always an alcoholic. But anyway, he's doing that. But
it's
like
funny. It's funny. Like it's funny when you see that in movies. It's so overdone, but like they're gonna like take a nip of some liquor, like that's gonna be enough
brandy,
to take the edge off.
Yeah.
It's like they'd really be like snorting some cocaine or something to take some edge off or something.
Now that I haven't seen very much. Yeah. I haven't seen very many cocaine priests. I would like to see more of those. Yeah. But anyway, so after the funeral, Liz is abandoned by her older sister because her older sister has a family of her own she has to take care of, and she is taking the last train out of town.
It's kind of cool that she gets out,
Yeah, but I think the reason why that's there is to give Liz and Mike something else in common, because like Mike, she was abandoned by her older sibling, the way that he was abandoned by Jody.
They do say that Jody died. I think in this film, they say that the tall man got him.
He died in a car accident, quote unquote.
But now what's interesting in the Paragord mausoleum, which it spends a lot of the movie in the second half, but it looks a lot different than the mausoleum Morningside.
It's so much bigger.
Yeah. But it also has the Morningside one, which is really cool, is very like they're both made out of marble or fake marble, but it's very white marble. This one's a lot like a darker black marble.
It's very brown.
It has a different like almost like older feel to it. And they got that when Liz goes down the hall after her sister abandons her, and she's walking through this, and she sees the coffin there. It's like it looks like it's been in the crematorium or something, but it's just kind of like a molted, like burnt coffin.
Yeah, they never really explained that. They never really explained
that was stolen out of the grave. I thought that was like a recently pulled out of the grave one.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, that makes more sense. It kind of looked burnt a little bit to me. But
Right. So I wonder if, like, the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that's because the coffins came straight from the red dimension. But I don't know, because the red dimension is hot and it makes people steamy. So
yeah, but it's a cool look, and it kind of looks like something out of A Nightmare on Elm Street when you see that. It's like a nightmare, it's like one of those gurneys that they push in. But then you have the tall man scene again that happened from the first one, where he does it to Jody, where she's standing there looking at it, and he appears and he says, "Gravesite service is about to begin,"
instead of the funeral is about.
Yeah. But then she stabs him with like some long pin in the finger. And like you don't even see her stab him. She runs off, and then he's been stabbed with it because she has it in her hand before that. So
yeah, it's through his finger, and a little drop of his own yellow blood, and he just like snips it with his tongue.
Yeah,
So gross.
Yeah, he seems to enjoy that. He's like, but he seems to be a little aggravated about her sticking the thing in his finger to begin with.
The tall man is just so like petty about everything. He's
Yeah.
got so many things on his mind. He's trying to take over the world, man, and all these people are just getting up in his business. And I would love to see, by the way, like a short film. I wish he'd done this or made a short story of like what the tall man is like on doing the day-to-day operations of a funeral home. Because we know from the first movie he has to go into town at some point to get supplies because he has that scene for the first movie where he's walking down Main Street in the broad daylight, and people seeing him. What is he going down to the Piggly Wiggly to get like tissues for the mourners? Like, what is the tall man like when he's just interacting with the common folk and doing the boring day-to-day stuff of running a mortuary? I would love to see that.
I feel like that scene though may have been, it's almost like it from Stephen King where he just appears to scare Mike because Mike's walking down the road, and then as kind of an apparition, he walks down the road, and it's more for Mike's purpose because then he turns and looks directly at the camera at that point, and so I think it's more of a nightmare like apparition to let Mike know that he's not done with him.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
There's a game that the tall man's playing with Mike that we don't know yet, and he doesn't know yet. It's a long-term game, or at least it's become a long-term game. I think the game would have ended if he had gotten Mike at the end of the first movie, but he didn't. So it's a long-term game.
Yeah, he's dragging it out because he likes it.
He's got
maybe, but he seems to be all illed up all the time, unless he's having like sex when he's the girl. He's pretty illed up, He doesn't seem to be too happy about anything,
He likes to do it, but only as a woman. It's very strange.
Yeah, we don't see him. I think he just kidnaps the women. He doesn't do anything with the women other than just kidnaps them. So, and sometimes he does something to them, and sometimes he doesn't. He allows them to escape, like in the first movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's okay. It's inconsistent. We're still fleshing out a world here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, or John Coscarelli is at least. And real quick before we move on to bigger and more interesting and really magnificent scenes in the third act. I do love the scene where before the 3 spheres, because instead of just adding one more sphere, Coscarelli goes the extra mile and he gives us 3 spheres of death. One is made of gold.
Yeah.
And they come out of the what looks like a little mini coffin as the priest was looking at it. And I love the little confrontation that the priest and the tall man have when he telekinetically, so that this movie adds telekinesis to the tall man's power set, and he telekinetically wraps the cross around the priest's neck and suspends him in midair for a little bit and says, like, you think when you die you go to heaven, you come to me.
He says you come to us is what he says.
Oh yes, us. You're right. Yeah. And you know what? I mentioned in the first movie that if any character, I think that's appropriate that he says us, because if any character in all of horror history deserves to use the they them pronoun, it is the tall man.
It kind of implies a little more than that, I think, because there's
a bigger world that we're not privy to just yet that the tall man is involved in. He is just one cog in the wheel.
We make the assumption that he's in charge, which he probably is, but you'd say there's more than one of him, which would make them an us.
Yeah, but also I was referring to like the different people he becomes.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
In the first movie, we say that because he plays both a female and a male character with the lady in lavender. So we called him they them.
That was actually something too. That whole thing was something that was added, like wasn't even originally like that. They were playing the characters like separate and didn't even know about it until like they're like had that idea, which such a weird idea too to do.
I know, like Angus Scrimm was like, if I'd known, I would have played it totally differently.
Yeah.
Well, that and the fact that it's just a weird idea, because when we think about it years after the movie was released, we start thinking, that's kind of weird for the tall man to be having sex as a female for a while instead of just killing this dude. But
I mean, it's like almost like it's weird too, because it's not. It is, again. It feels like a nightmare when you see it, but the fact that they didn't do it on purpose to begin with until they like got into post, and they just like randomly put a close up shot of the tall man in there to make it to sell it. But if they'd have done it to begin with and he was all of a sudden just there, like instead of doing that weird close up shot, they could have planned it a little better.
Yeah, well, apparently the tall man is the role of him is evolving, and they mentioned that in the commentary that's like that Angus Scrimm had to kind of reconcile what he was in this movie as opposed to what he was in the first movie. Although I would think that there's not as much contradiction as you might think. I feel like, and I talked about this in our first session, that I feel like the tall man is meant to be like he said at first blush. He said like they saw him. I mean, they as in the filmmakers saw him as the Grim Reaper, as a archetype of the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
He is death. He is death. He is destruction. He is entropy. He is rot. He is the grave, a triumph of death over life. But as the movies progress, but I still think there's a little bit of that in the first movie. The movies progress to show him as more of a satanic archetype. He's not just death. He is Satan. He is a tempter. He is a manipulator. And in this case, right here, he is an adversary of the cross. Quite literally, he is an adversary of the priest, and he gets up in his face, torments him, doesn't kill him yet. But I love how the movie goes out of its way to give the upside down cross that he makes telekinetically its own shot. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that's on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, he does seem to be the priest is like conflicted the whole time. He knows this stuff's going on, and he's kind of like at the mercy of it. And of course, he does what characters in movies do. Is he tries to confront it and say that he's going to do something about it. He actually finds Liz, and he tells her that they need to do something about it. And then that's when the tall man pops in, and he's like, they have no need for your services. But it's like I always think that I always wish characters in movies would be a little more careful and just like sneak out the door and leave. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like say something stupid like we gotta go call the cops, or whatever they're gonna do.
I do think it's funny. Now that you mentioned it, I do think it's funny that the sphere when it chases him down after he tells Liz to get out. He basically, and Liz says this, that the priest he didn't die in vain. He does save Liz's life because the sphere is coming after Liz, and instead it comes after him, and it cuts off his ear, which I think is again on purpose, because what was the priest's problem? He heard too much. Mm-hmm. He knew the secret, so it cut off his ear, and then get the classic ball to the head and drains the head. Of the blood, and of course we are to assume that he's going to become a little zombie Jawa later.
That of course it's edited down. They said the censors were pretty good with it. Other than that, they really made them just cut all of that out. We've seen it before, though. We've seen the same scene before.
We do. Yeah, we haven't. Although he doesn't pee himself like in the first.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. But I got to mention this is a cool thing that happens during that scene when Liz is getting chased by the zombie Jawas. This is the first time, in maybe the only time that I think about it in all of Phantasm history, that a zombie Jawa, the zombie dwarf, has dialogue. It speaks. And you find out that the one that's attacking her used to be her grandma.
What does it say? I didn't notice it speaking. What does it say?
I think it just says her name.
It says her name. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. And
some reason, I just figured that was just normal when I saw it. I didn't realize it was like the first time they talked. But that's pretty cool, though. Yeah.
And then she like quacks her over the head with the urn and says, "Sorry, Grandma."
Right.
The zombie jaws talked. As soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Now, right before that happens, though, this is kind of interesting because after the priest gets killed, and then the tall man grabs her, and he's like, "Hello again, and goodbye." And he picks her up and throws her down the hall and slams into the wall. And that's when she falls on the ground, and then her grandmother shows up. But that's pretty hardcore that he throws her like that.
Like a rag doll.
Yeah,
he's so strong. Yeah.
Hello and goodbye. And he throws her ass.
Like I said, he's a petty old man.
Yeah, he really doesn't care that much about Liz. I don't think as much as he does about Mike, but he definitely was like, it's fine with just her getting out of there and dying.
Yeah, and then at the end he tries to embalm her, and then like spoilers for the third movie, like after she's dead, he's just carrying her head around like it's a shopping bag. Yeah, it's really awful.
Well, unfortunately, the supporting characters in these movies never tend to survive for more than just the initial film.
I don't feel like she is intended as a supporting. She's really like the lead in this in a way.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
But I think I think it's just
the interference that we've been talking about, though.
Yeah.
I think once Coscarelli got control back over the franchise and was no longer under Universal, he went back to what he intended it to be with the third films.
So. Yeah, he got rid of like whatever they were imposing on him. But I did like the connection with her and Mike, and I wish they had more scenes where they could have played that even more. Yeah. But the plus to them not having a lot of scenes, because the way it's structured is you got them not seeing each other and knowing about each other, then briefly them being together, and then you have what's a really awesome last 30 minutes of the film that just goes balls to the wall with special effects.
Yeah, because like this tall man kidnaps her, so they damsel her.
Balls to the wall, literally, by the way. So.
Yeah, balls to the wall, balls to the door, balls to everything.
Well, because they got a lot of story elements that they need to get through in this film. You know, the fact that the spheres can be used as a key to doorway, and all the new characters they have in here, and how they interact with each other. Like, this is the first time we actually see what do you call them, the humans that they use.
The two mortician guys.
Two morticians that take Liz down into the crematorium to cremate her.
Right. Which is pretty hardcore too, that they're going to do that.
You know, but we see their whole process of one of them breaking up the bones out of the one that was just recently burned to put in an urn. Like, he's continuing to do his job, even though he knows he needs to cremate her as well.
And again, like I said, like that would intrigue me so much to see like a short film of what the day-to-day operations of his mortuaries are. But I love how that mortician, and you set me up for this perfectly, Kevin, is putting the dust from the previous person, and on the Ziploc baggie, it says, Raimi, Sam, 175 pounds, delivered to brass urn.
He does that in the first movie too. There's a name I forgot what the freaking name of the gravestone is. It's a famous person on the gravestone. I was looking for it in my notes. I couldn't find it. I noticed that too in the first movie. He does it there too.
I don't know, but like apparently Sam Raimi was prepping Darkman while they were making this movie, and he loved Phantasm so much. He came visited the set for this movie several times, and apparently he just kept begging Don Coscarelli, please let me have a part in Phantasm 2. Please let me have a part in Phantasm 2. Please. I swear I'll do anything. I'll play anything. I mean, he could have easily had him play one of the morticians. It would have been just fine. He would have loved that. But no, it didn't work out. So this is Don Coscarelli casting Sam Raimi as a bag of ashes to appease him in Phantasm 2.
Yeah, it might have been tough though, because the morticians were established and earlier on, and then and then you already cast the people. It would have been cool if he gotten Sam Raimi in there. Sam Raimi's in this.
You know what would have been great is if Sam ended up being the mortician who gets his hand chopped, or who chops his own hand off.
Yeah, that guy did a really awesome job, though. The guy that does play that character.
Because he's chasing Liz, and then the spear comes in, and instead of getting Liz, it goes for the guy's head, but he puts his hand in front of it, and it goes into his hand and drills into his hand into the door. But there's another spear coming by. I think it's the gold one. And he just like takes out his little hatchet, looks at it, reacts, and is like, "Ha!" I cuts off his hand.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, it's weird. The gold one. I didn't notice it was gold necessarily at first because of the way that it's like. I guess kind of. I just assuming the way it's like it's kind of a little bit in darkness. But I heard that they called it the gold one, then I noticed it. I was like, wow, that one is different. It's like it's more powerful apparently than the other.
You know why it's more powerful? Because it's got laser beams.
It's got Star Wars laser beams. It's like Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, it's got much more. Coscarelli could do much more stuff with a bigger budget. We have 3 spheres with differing powers, and it's actually really cool to see all this stuff in there.
Yep, it's got laser beams. It's got laser beams that can apparently zap rats into an explosion.
Yeah, but that when Liz is in the crematorium, I like what they do with her character because the mortuary assistant is going to put her on the conveyor belt to go into the furnace, and she fights him back. It throws him on the conveyor belt, and he gets burned himself. And he's just like screaming. But I like the way that they don't have her get saved. I hate it that they had her get kidnapped, and then but it's awesome the way that she gets herself out of it instead of having to get saved.
Exactly. It's kind of funny if you think about it that their whole Reggie and Mike are on gung ho about trying to get her saved. Unfortunately, they have this great car chase where they try to save her from the hearse, but they wreck the Cuda.
Yeah.
The Cuda explodes.
Yeah. I guess it was like the point. They're like, I guess they're just tired of dealing with the cars. So you know what? We're killing the car in this one.
But they bring it back in the next one. So
do they?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen the third one, but yeah. But it's
But yeah, it's funny. It's like they're all about going to help her and rescue her. But like, if she wasn't more resourceful, she would have been dead anyway. She would have been dust by the time they got there.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that she is actually a very resourceful human. And she undamsels herself for a bit and kicks that guy's butt, which is part of what makes the third act of this movie really awesome.
Yeah. Another dumb move that they make, like Reggie and Mike, it ends up being fine, but Reggie and Mike come in and then they find the ball like gate thing that they have to have a ball to open. They figure that out, but then this is not the dumb thing. But then Reggie takes the
hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, and he pours it into the embalming fluid just because he knows they're going to be using it later for some reason.
That's not what he does. Yeah. He does it because he doesn't want to see anyone else begin involved with it. Yeah, he says that.
But the dumb thing that happens though is then they split up like a Scooby-Doo thing.
Yeah.
Right? Let's split up, But it works out good because then we're able to get Mike and Liz back together for some really awesome like scenes and action sequences, and then Reggie gets to fight the gas mask guy in the basement with the
graver
chainsaws. Yeah.
Graver. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about my favorite part of this whole dang movie. Dueling chainsaws. First of all, we have to realize that they set up Reggie's chainsaw in the beginning. He buys it at the hardware store, but it's this little yellow chainsaw. It looks almost like a hedge trimmer. It's very small as chainsaws go, but he's proud of it. He loves this thing, and he confronts. He gets down to the basement, and then bam, there's a graver there, and he just whips out his chainsaw and he turns it on. He's like, "Yeah, come at me, mother." And
but he literally says that. He says "mother," and it's like we're so weird that he.
Right?
Yeah, but he actually has a look on his face like, there's more to it, but that's all I'm saying,
Yeah, but like, and then the graver is just standing there, and then turns, looks at the shelf, and oh my gosh, pulls out this incredibly long logging chainsaw. It's like, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
Yeah.
But the look on Reggie's face is just classic. Not just so that particular scene, but throughout this entire scene as he's battling with these fucking chainsaws, his looks are priceless. Yeah.
It's like his all hope is gone from his face. He's just I just look at that and laugh so hard. I don't know why it was so funny, but it was just so only in horror movies. Only in horror movies and really low budget action movies can you get away with moments like this without it being super cheeseball or not being funny. I don't know what it is, but like it's only in these kind of things can you get away with that.
Yeah. That's the chainsaw fight goes on, and he gets the guy. He climbs up the damn wall on the shelves, jumps over the dude. And then the guy's about to kill him, but then he's able to get his tiny chainsaw cranked and then rips right into the guy's groin. And then
Yeah, he jumps over the chainsaw with his groin very close to the blade, very like Cat jumps over the candlestick thing, which I thought was amazing and very John McClane in a weird way, very Die Hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just like takes out his chainsaw and shoves it up the guy's crotch and goes up there, and it's amazing. And I love every second of that. It's so great. But then again, you see the Graver does have red blood, so I wonder. I don't think he's a zombie. I think he's another human, which is weird to think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But then he's got more zombie Jawas to deal with. And I think the reason why they're there is because Coscarelli realized, wait a minute, we haven't actually seen the quad shotgun kill anything yet.
Yeah.
So that's when he uses it to annihilate all of them in one shot.
It's cool, but the bad thing is, then he decides just to throw the shotgun away. He's
I
just
know.
Like, it's
he
like
doesn't have any more bullets because the other guy with the chainsaw cuts his belt, and he just falls off.
He's still like after he put all that effort into making it, he
could have picked up the bullets. Yes, he could have very well picked up the bullets. Yeah,
you're right. I agree with Dave on this. That little move was very uncharacteristic of Reggie. He spent all that time to make that quad. He would easily the real Reggie, I feel like, in world would have just like went down the steps, grabbed his bullet thing, and slung his quad over his shoulder and kept going on because he's not. I will say, again, spoilers for Phantasm 3, getting ahead of ourselves here, but he's got the quad with him at the beginning of Phantasm 3, so he clearly went back for it.
Yeah.
We don't see how he goes back for it, but yes, he does go back for it.
Well, they just like wrote it back in. They're like, screw it. We like it.
Yeah, I think we all like
to have him throw it away. So it's like, it's one of those things. I feel like sometimes in movies they do this a lot, where they use something like it's been established and they use it, and it's just like, all right, we did the scene with this, so we can get rid of it now, even though it still could be useful at some other point, But it's like we did the scene, we're done with it, Well,
that's not just that, but horror movies do it a lot when someone has a weapon and they use it once and then they drop it and get rid of it, and they're still being chased by killers, and why did you drop your weapon? Keep the fucking weapon. It's a bad cliche that we don't see as much nowadays because we know it's a fucking bad cliche, but we saw it a lot in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Definitely in the 2000s where everything became a fucking cliche.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, we get from there to like we said, Mike gets the ball. I don't know. I think he got it out of the other mortician's mouth because we had the golden spear. Gets into the guy's back and just like carves his way inside his body and goes up through his throat and out of it's so disgusting.
Yeah, that's a cool sequence.
It's really cool makeup effects, dude. It's good, but it's like I was just wishing the damn ball would just went through his entire body and blew it up and blew a big hole in it. Really, it
would have been so awful. But yeah, they got that. They got the spear from the hand that's hanging, and I love how he puts it in a blanket and gives it to Reggie. He's like, "Why am I holding this?"
The one that's holding his hand is just a regular silver one that they use. The gold one gets stuck in the guy's body. That's really weird that he can't get it.
You never see it again. But yeah, so they use that to open what we now know is the portal room, because there's always a portal room, and. My gosh, it's whiter than it's ever been. I think
they call it a space gate. Well, the gate. There's a portal room, and then the gate itself is a space gate.
Yeah, they call it the space gate because you can't call it a Stargate because. Yeah,
this is like before Stargate.
I know.
He actually said, "Yeah."
If only they called it that, then Lauren Elnick and Dean Devlin could have been sued by Coscarelli, and he would have made even more money. Oh well. But yeah,
Well, the thing is, like, they call it a Stargate. It's not like they necessarily copyrighted that term, But
I mean, you kind of can, but not really. But
anyway, Stargazer.
Yeah.
The what?
It's a derivative of Stargazer. I don't.
It's a dimensional portal that brings them to either a different dimension or they call it a space gate. So it could be a different planet. Where they come from.
They do say Mike says in the first movie that it is another planet in the red dimension.
Yeah.
Which is not clear how that all works. In
or
fact,
how he would even know.
or how he would even know. Yeah, exactly. We talked
Yeah.
about that in the first movie. But like we get a lot more of that, the science and pseudoscience of that in Phantasm 5.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I feel like we get the first real clear glimpse of the red dimension better than it was in the first movie because Mike and Jet and sorry,
Jody.
Mike and Reggie get thrown into the portal with Reggie's boots.
This is like some like Return of the Jedi shit too, when like they're on the barge at Jabba's palace and then they fall
Yes,
off and then they're and then they're
dangling
like,
over Salak.
yeah, it was like Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando. They're all like, yeah.
But what's funny is if you look at that sequence and you see what you see of the red dimension, you still have the dwarfs off in the distance doing druids on parade, but you also have to the left the one dwarf that comes out all gooey and tries to eat Mike and then tries to eat Reggie.
Yeah.
But on the right,
is he trying to? They think they're trying to eat people? Is that what they're trying to do?
I don't think so. I think that's trying to say they're trying to eat people.
I don't know.
I don't know what they want to do. They want to be disgusting though.
I don't know. I don't know either. But guess what, guys? I noticed something about this movie I never understood that I never got before, and they show you something in the red dimension that I don't think they ever show again, even in Phantasm 5. If you look at the right, when Mike is through and he's dangling on the rocks, being roasted in the red dimension and slowly suffocating because you can't really breathe in the red dimension for very long. On the right, you see some barrels. In fact, you see one barrel spinning, and next to it is a robot. There's literally a tall man created silver robot with like a chrome sphere attachment and an arm. It appears to be spinning the barrel. And I'm like, wow, the tall man has robot technology. He has like a Wally type thing that helps unscrew his barrels in the red dimension, and they never show it again.
Well, that could be why that one barrel that the one monster comes out of, the one dwarf comes out of, is there. Like was there one or a couple of the barrels were overturned?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would make sense, but I didn't notice it. I'll have to rewatch that and notice it. Next time I rewatch the movie.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. In fact, if I had time, I would have zoomed in on it to see more of the robot because it's a little thing that's clearly a robot. It's like there, and I'm like, wow. To think like, and I listened to it with commentary on that part. I don't think Coscarelli even mentions it. It's just something a set designer, I guess, decided. Hey, let's give them a robot.
Yeah, I didn't notice it. That's cool though. But I was thinking about the structure of the plot. It is like a lot of it is kind of like the plot points from the first one. It kind of revisited just with a higher budget. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Evil Dead 2, where they kind of redid the plot because like we got a budget now, let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure. Although I feel like this one is a little bit less of a classical horror movie, whereas the first one leans very much into the scares, takes time to develop jump scares. It's very like every 10 minutes there's a scary thing that happens. I feel like this one, especially in the third act, becomes an action movie. And it's really like all the action set pieces we describe, all the insanity and gloriousness, that all happens in the third act, and it's fantastic. But it's very action movie. And the third movie we'll talk about when we talk about it kind of leads into that to the entire movie, which is part of the reason why I love Phantasm 3. But yeah, this movie I think does the thing that a lot of good sequels do, which is you do what works in the first movie, but you change genres. And the same thing they kind of did with Alien. They did Aliens. Aliens is an action movie. Same thing with this. I feel like this still kind of horror, but it becomes more of a sci-fi actioner by the time, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I think the last. I like the whole movie really, but like especially like it's really jarring how much happens in the last act because in the first movie, the sequence where Mike first goes into the mortuary and we see the balls for the first time, or the spears. like that whole sequence is gold, and this whole last act is that whole sequence just for 30 minutes. But that's yeah, that's kind of how I saw it. They took that, but even like the first one, it kind of like you get two really awesome sequences like that in the first one, but this one you have like a lot more of it, and you don't feel cheap. And I was getting a little worried. It's been a while since I've seen this. Around about before the 30-minute act, I was like, and you had like 5 minutes with Liz and Mike together, and I was a little worried about like what was going to happen with that, since then she gets kidnapped and they have to go save her, and and then it was like, okay, well, this actually works really good because she gets out herself and suddenly they're reunited pretty quickly, even though they don't have any more scenes that are going to be heavy with dialogue or connection.
No.
Which we didn't even talk about that ridiculous scene when they're in the bed, like using their telepathy to talk to each other.
we kind of glanced over that when we just talked about the telepathy part. That's the only, and we don't see that type of connection in any other movie, I don't believe. I'm trying to think of if we saw
in the Phantasm movies, or I've seen it in other movies. I can't think of. Yeah.
I will say they do that a bit more in Phantasm 4.
Yeah,
that's all I will say about that.
I mean, it's not awful, but it is kind of like it's a little awkward, but it's kind of cool that they could talk to each other through their minds. But at that point, you're in person, you could talk for real. Because they've been talking to each other through their dreams and their minds for all this time.
I know, but like, dude, it's more intimate when it's mind to mind, man. It's like the Vulcan mind meld.
But you get like one scene of them together talking, like, and it's not even them talking; they're talking to each other through their mind. That's all you get, and then it's like she's kidnapped, and then their action sequence the rest of the film.
Yeah, but I will say I do love how they work together to defeat the tall man, at least temporarily. Yeah. Like, because at the end, when they're cornered and they get out of the red dimension, the tall man's there, and he's trying to embalm poor Liz. And Mike kind of saves her, but then she gets off the gurney. And then Mike has he tries to sell the line. He tries to sell, hey, suck on this. It doesn't quite work for me, but we'll fix that. We'll fix that in due course.
I was thinking that when I wrote that down, man. I knew you were going to hone in on that.
Fix that in due course. And then he does something that happens at least 2 more times in this franchise, where he gives the tall man a taste of his own medicine and throws the ball at his head, and it drills into his head and takes out the formaldehyde from his head. But he's just like, oh, again, pain in my rear. Pulls it off his head and crushes it like a Coke can.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
that's a cool sequence though. Like, you're not expecting him to do that.
Now, before he does say that line, like, "Hey, suck on this," he's saying that in reference to her, because she's sucking that. He's about to put that what do you call it, like the formaldehyde stuff into her, suck the blood out. But it's just such a, like, it almost reminded me of in Night of the Creeps when he's like, it's Miller time, because it's this was intended to be an action line that was cool, but it comes off very like
not so much.
Very much like
apparently Angus Scrimm suggested that he say, "Let's play ball."
Yeah, that could have been just as bad. I don't think it would have worked no matter what he said. I mean, I think he needed to say something, but he didn't. It would have been better had they not said an action line, just like "Hey," and thrown the ball at him, because he had to say. You have to say, because when you're doing a scene like that, you do have to say more than just "Hey," because I've done scenes like this before, and so you almost always, the actors don't want to say more than just "Hey" or whatever, but they want to just say "Hey" because that makes most sense. Because in real life, if you were doing this,
you wouldn't say anything.
You wouldn't say anything at all. But the way that the camera's got to cut to you, so you have to say something, and then the camera cuts to you, and then you say the rest of the sentence, and that's how has to be done. But it just I don't know. That's a tough call, but it doesn't work, in the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't work. But what does work is when Liz sneaks up behind him and stabs him with the embalming needle that he was going to use on her. And then Reggie comes in and turns on the formaldehyde, which is now acid, and
Right.
pumps his body full of hydrochloric acid, and he just melts.
It's such a cool melt sequence too. It's so gruesome. Like you see his hand, and the flesh just melts off of his hand, and
yeah, it's like pink wax just coming off.
yeah, and then his eyeballs like explode out of his head.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
So gross.
yeah.
But he just kind of deflates and becomes this like little mat of flesh and bubbliness and a suit. That's all that's left of him. And then Reggie comes in, takes out the flamethrower, just starts setting random things on fire. Yeah. Not doing anything to the space gate. Reggie, come on. But he just starts burning things like, come on, get out of here. And that's when Alchemy comes in and seemingly saves the day. Convenient. I think too much. But like they gets him in the hearse, and I love how they're celebrating for a little bit. They're the moment of triumph. But Reggie is smart. He's like, hey, check the coffin back there, make sure whatever's in there is dead. And he's like, okay, yeah, good. And Mike gets out a gun and he opens the coffin. He's like, nothing in there. He's like, empty. And Reggie's like, just the way I like him.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it happens. He puts the window up. It's like I guess like almost like a limo.
Security window.
Yeah, security window.
Privacy window.
He's got the privacy between him and the girl, and suddenly it's like he's been through all this shit, and suddenly he's horny again. But
It becomes his characteristic in the later films. So
yeah, that is Reggie's ultimate downfall, is that he does sometimes make bad decisions with the wrong head, if you know what I mean. And I think you do. And this is another one of those bad decisions.
Yeah, that's when the hair thing happens. She pulls her hair, and then her hair like comes out, and you see that, like you're saying, it looks like it could be a spear mark in her head.
Oh, it's clearly a spear mark. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what it is.
I'll have to look at it again.
It is round. I've noticed it. I noticed it the first time that it was round. I didn't connect it to a spear, but it was. I always thought it was.
Say it was. Her hair. She's pulling her hair out of her scalp. Is how I saw it, not as a sphere, but I need to look at it again because that's a very interesting observation.
Yeah, it's totally a sphere thing, and like I said, in Phantasm 3, they show you the process. There's a type of sphere that is stuck in their brain, in their skull, after the embalming process has happened, and that's how you make a lurker. She is the first lurker, unless you interpreted that no, it's just a tall man shape shifting, and actually they suggest that I think that even the tall man has a sphere in his head. I don't know what's inside his sphere. Maybe it's like a little dragon thing, like what comes out of his head. It kind of almost reminds me of, and again, I know they did this first, but in the Stargate series, the Goa'uld has like little dragon creature things that live inside as a parasite, and that's what the gods are. They're these parasitic organisms.
They developed that pretty good in Stargate, and they have like both personalities can exist at the same time. The parasite and the person who originally had it, the host. So
it's very strange and how weird. Like in this movie, both creatures look very similar when it pops out of his head. I wonder if I wonder if the people of Stargate looked at this movie and decided to homage it a little bit. Maybe
Spacegate, Stargate.
Yes, yes.
But I do, even though it's a possibility, but I do see like a lot of things that he took from other movies too at the same time. So he had some things that were new for his movie, but he did take a lot of things from other films.
Yeah, he did. And then the poor Reggie gets sliced to ribbons, and he gets patted against the window, like Mike, and then just kind of falls to the ground. Well, bloody and falls to the ground.
Yeah, if we think that he's dead.
He's not. He never was. He wasn't dead. Well, I mean, he was dead temporarily in the first movie, unless that part was a dream, which I think it was. But anyway,
when this movie came out, there hadn't been a real plan for a third one. So, and there was a huge gap in between the second and third one. So people probably thought he was dead, just like he was dead in the first movie.
Well, I think if the studio had stayed involved with this, they probably would have killed him off, because they were making him. The other guys would, like Mike and Liz, would go on to be the protagonists going forward.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, now that you mention it, that's probably something Dino would probably do. Yeah. So I guess it's just as well that it went the other direction. But yeah, again, like we said before, they're like, oh gosh, what's happening? And the thing is coming away, and he's like looking in Liz's eyes, like, this is not happening. This is This isn't real. You're gonna wake up, and it's gonna be all a dream, and then up comes the divider, and there's the tall man again with a circular scar on the side of his head, because he was alchemy. I will die on that hill. And he says, no, it's not. And then, of course, they replicate the very last little bit from the first movie. Bam! Some dwarfs come out and grab them and pull them out of the car, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you watch Phantasm 3. But anyway, it happens. And that's credits, the end of Phantasm 2.
Him appearing after being disintegrated and melted, obviously we don't have an explanation for this, and it is kind of nightmarish and dreamish, and she is in the front seat of the hearse, and suddenly he is in her place instead. So it's
yeah, because alchemy was the tall man the whole time, or at least part of the time. Again, look, I mean, that's like I said, she is partial to the enigma of this movie. Was she ever a real person? I mean, alchemy, that should have been your first red flag, because alchemy is literally a type of magic science that is kind of what the tall man is doing. He's performing a kind of alchemy. He's turning one substance to another substance. That's what alchemy is.
That's another callback in a way to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, because that happens to like the main girl in that film too, where she disappears for a long time, and then she returns again, and then she's a robot, where you don't know if she was always that way or part, so you don't. Like the same thing kind of happens with that.
Well, that logic could also be played in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I also love that. Well, speaking of the credits, this is the first time in the franchise where the credits are a well-established credit that most people just like rubber stamp, is changed and customized, which is to say that at the end of the credits, where it normally says something like, this motion picture is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability and criminal prosecution. And this movie adds, and the wrath of the tall man.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yes, buddy.
Yep, every movie has that at the end, except that I think in Phantasm 5 they modify it to, and the enduring wrath of the tall man, which is lovely. But yeah, speaking of lovely, we got one more bit of business before we wrap this up. We got to ask ourselves, how would Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger would have improved on the suck on this line? A valiant attempt by James LeGras. But honestly, we could do so much better, folks. I think. What do you think? I think we can do better.
Yeah. When I heard that line, I thought Schwarzenegger would do it a lot better than LeGras did it.
Oh, yes. So I racked my brain thinking of what we could do, and I only got 3 of these, so I'm a little disappointed at my output here. But maybe all 3 of them are good. Maybe we'll go for quality.
Yeah. He could even say the same line. He could say the same line, and it'd be better.
Those sound better. It's like Schwarzenegger going, "Suck on this." No, that's not better. It's not better. I got 3 alternatives though. Here we go, guys.
All right,
So
go ahead, dude. I mean, go ahead, Thomas. Cause I was about to say, Dave, you can do a couple too if you have some. But go ahead, Thomas.
Sure, yeah, Dave, yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't do that accent. But yeah.
You don't have to do the accent. You could do your Dave alternators if you want to. We've never done that before, but go ahead if you want to.
I don't have anything planned for it, but
okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. The Schwarzenegger alternator for the ball to the tall man's forehead instead of suck on this. Number 3. I'm gonna go in reverse order this time. Number 3, Mr. Tall Man, you're about to come up short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, hey, tall man, get thrilled. Because it's a drill on the ball. Yeah. I got to rev up for this last one because I think it's a really good one. Yeah. And finally, number 1, the Schwarzenegger alternator. You got balls. So do I.
I actually like the third one the best, but
you're gonna come up short.
I mean, you still can't. I mean, it still doesn't work. It sucks that it's.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh, Dave. We gotta have a lot more to talk about when we talk about part 3, Lord of the Dead.
There's so much stuff in part 3.
As much as I love these movies, part 3, if you thought part 2 was balls to the walls crazy, the third one gets balls to the walls crazy. It's such a fun way too. Oh my god. So that being said, is there anything else we should tackle in Phantasm 2? Even though we can revisit it in Phantasm Lord of the Dead.
I can't think of anything. What about you, Mr. Watkins?
Yeah, I think we got it covered.
Okay.
Gonna rate this thing.
Yes, we are. So, as my esteemed colleague, Mr. Dave Watkins, is telling everyone out there, we rate our films between 1 and 5, 1 being 4, 5 being amazing. But what we like to do is pull an object from the film, a quote or saying to attribute to our rating. What is your rating and what is your object, quote or saying for your rating? And we're going to start off with you, Dave.
So I really love this movie. I think it hits everything right. And I like the first one and this one probably equally. So it's kind of tough, to say which one's better. But I'm going to give this one 4 golden spears.
Okay.
Very nice selection, Dave. I actually picked in the first movie. I picked the silver spears, and I rated them 4.5 silver spears. This one, I think we're gonna deduct a half a spear. I'm not gonna pick spears this time. I'm gonna hold back because I feel like if it'd be too easy to just pick spears because there's so many different kind of spears. I could, but that's just too easy for me. I like to torture myself, so I like to rack my brain and think about what I could possibly use the marvelous and terrible objects from this movie. So I had to pick something that I feel like defines this movie, defines what this movie adds to the Phantasm franchise. And I think I'm going to have to go with the iconic quad shotgun.
Yeah.
Reggie Bannister's quad shotgun. That sadly I think will outlive him. Again, not to bring the room down, but as of this recording, Mr. Reggie Bannister is in hospice care right now. And if you out there are a fan of these movies and you haven't already, please send Reggie a message or send him a card or something. His wife tells him that he really loves reading all of them. And we wish him well. So I'm going to give him 4 quad shotguns out of 5.
Okay. Well, at least you didn't steal mine this time. What you happen to do all the time.
Well, he'll usually instead of just doing 1, he'll do 3. He'd be, I could have used this, Yeah. I bet you, or this. But I'm going to go with this one.
We're going to go with this one. Jesus.
It's good luck, everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. I'm pretty sure none of you would have pick mine anyways, but I'm gonna give it. My opinion of this has not changed at all, and I'm gonna stick with my original my ratings for this. Although I will have some interesting stuff to actually look upon when I think about it again, because you guys have brought up some interesting comments. But I'm gonna give it 4.5 exploding kittens.
Exploding kittens.
And I do hope that, and I want to bring something else up because Thomas, you brought something up as well about Reggie Bannister and his declining health. But I do want to bring out the fact that everyone out there, if you didn't know, Reggie was actually working with another creative team with American Mythology on the comic book called Catching Hell, of which he was promoting. It was not a direct sequel to Phantasm, but it's like the spirit of his Reggie character in a comic book form. And he was actually signing autographs for this for the great people who purchased one through Kickstarter. So I hope that he does. I hope it does well, and it's a good testament to him, because we all love Mr. Reggie Bannister. We have 3 more films to discuss of the Phantasm franchise, and maybe we'll get to some of his other films as well. But yes, I just want to add
like Bubba Hotep, for example, which also has Reggie Bannister in
it. We'll get to that one. But some of the, like, I don't know if we're going to get to the Mangler 2.0 or any of the other weird.
By the way, Vinegar Syndrome just announced, which I have purchased because it was a secret release. I didn't purchase it before he even announced it. They did announce a 4K of the Mangler, the first one.
I'm gonna slap you. I just bought that on Blu-ray. I'm gonna slap you, Dave.
Well, it was a secret release. They announced that, and what was the other one? But yeah, and I was pretty happy though. I was like, I hope it's not going to suck because I've already purchased it, but it ended up being the Mangler. So
that's fine. I didn't own that one. I own Mangler 2.0, and I own Mangler.
Is he in Mangler too, Reggie?
No, he's in Reborn. I got that with Mangler.
But he's in one of the Mangler films. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's like a guy who breaks into the apartment of the guy who's rebuilding his own Mangler within his apartment complex by using pieces from the original one in the first movie.
So they lost the damn plot by the time they got to the third one.
It didn't take long. It became like one of the Amityville sequels. We're going to take a piece from the Amityville house and it's going to haunt people.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the Mangler, I think it's Reborn. Yes, that's the third one. Mangler Reborn. Yeah, you're not missing a damn thing, even though it does have Reggie Bannister in it.
Is he in it a lot or just like a little bit?
He's in it till his character gets killed, obviously. But I think like half the movie.
Okay.
I seriously doubt there'll be a 4K of Reggie Bannister's bloody Bible camp.
Well, you never know. You never know what they'll put on 4K. You just never know. Yeah.
All right. With that, I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation in horror, in which we discussed Phantasm 2. Please make sure to check out all the other episodes on the other films in the franchise. They are all being released today, so you get to have one hell of a great time listening to us talk about those films. Make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast or your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcasts, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, in which we delve into the intricate history of the amazing 60s, 70s, and 80s output of Hammer Studios. From all of us here, Something Wicked Entertainment, please have a great day and stay out of the mortuaries, people.
Boy.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.